Welcome, friends. You ever get the feeling that your hose is too short on your electric grease gun? Listen, don't waste your time and hard-earned money on mistakes like I did. I'm going to show you in a short video exactly what to avoid and what works. So stay tuned, let's jump right in. Make the mistake I made. You know, this is a 36-inch hose or so, and I thought, oh, I'll just go get an extension hose. So I bought one on Amazon because I couldn't really find one in town at Ace Hardware and whatever. Nobody had an extension, at least in my town. So I just got one and I bought it, and it said 4,500 PSI, and I was like, great. And then I started reading about pressures that these things make. So this hose that I bought is not rated for electric grease guns. Use on hand grease guns only, 4,500 PSI max. Replace immediately if damaged, blah, blah, blah. And there's the date that they manufactured it. So this was kind of a fail. You know, I don't know if it's a real true hazard, but these do make a lot of pressure, up to 10,000 PSI. So I'm going to change it out. Now, the hose, the original hose on the BAUER gun says max pressure 10,000 PSI. Use only with hand/battery powered grease guns. Okay. And that's pretty much what it says on this dewalt one too. This dewalt one feels a little bit smaller in diameter, but it says basically the same thing somewhere. Here it is. dewalt 10,000 PSI, replace if damaged, but that's pretty much all that says. So that hose is definitely rated higher. Now, I did find this hose. This is by PT, and I think I got it at Murdoch's, and it's only 18 inches. And I thought, oh, well, good. This is a grease, you know, this will withstand higher pressures. And I read the pressures on it. Working pressure 4,500, burst pressure 10,000 PSI. So I don't know if the burst pressure here, 10,000 PSI, is the same as max pressure here, 10,000 PSI, or not. In any event, it says for hard-to-reach jobs for use with hand and air-powered grease guns. Okay, it doesn't say electric grease guns. So I don't know, is this a risk that I'm using? And then to confuse things further, if you go Google what's the maximum pressure a manual grease gun makes, 2,000 to 15,000 PSI is what it says. Okay, so that's way over what this hose that's supposedly approved for hand grease guns, it's way over its rating. Okay, so the pneumatic, if you Google pneumatic, what's the maximum pressure a pneumatic grease gun can produce, it's 1,200 to 6,000 PSI, and that's at 150 PSI at your compressor. So, okay. And then the battery ones, they say can be anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 PSI. Now, if you read the manual, this one makes about 10,000 PSI. DeWalt, it also says the pressure relief valve is set to relieve pressure above 10,000 PSI, where grease will start to come out if there's an obstruction. So grease will start to come out this, and I've had that happen a couple times where the grease is like come out. I don't think I've had it happen on this one yet. And to make matters worse, the rating on this brass coupler that's 1/8 female that I used to couple these together for this extension is only rated at 3,000 PSI. So I'm just like, okay, well, whatever. Maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe putting an extension hose isn't a good idea. Maybe I should just like lay this on my chest and try to get this short hose to work. Or maybe I can find a longer hose. I don't know. Do you guys, can you find longer hoses for these? That sure would be nice. Okay. So I would not recommend doing what I did here. I'm going to change this out. I don't feel safe about this. I think it was a good idea to make a longer hose, but I don't think it's a good idea to try to piece this together, especially with the fitting. And even if I find a stainless steel fitting, the highest pressure I can find for a stainless steel fitting that's not brass is still rated at 3,000 PSI. So that just, you know, that's not safe. So I'm not going to use this anymore. I'm going to go ahead and get a longer hose for this right here. Now, the other thing that's interesting is the DeWalt hose threads in to the Harbor Freight gun. And so these threads are not 1/8 National Pipe thread. Now, what's interesting is on the Harbor Freight BAUER, the hose outlet thread on the tool side is 7/16 UNEF, whatever that is. The hose outlet threads on the coupler side is 1/8 NPT, and we already knew that. So this hose, Harbor Freight actually sells a 48-inch hose that has that thread pitch on it for high pressure hoses. Let's look at that. Okay, and then when you get on Harbor Freight's website, the Holt Industries 48-inch flexible grease hose with heavy-duty coupler. I don't care about the coupler, but this is interesting. It's $20, and I haven't tried this yet, but I think next time at Harbor Freight I'm going to pick one up. So this is a 48-inch hose. Works with most pneumatic and battery-powered grease guns. Okay, so that should be the BAUER, 10,000 PSI max pressure. Okay, and we go down here to the specs. There's the SKU, the SKU number 64384, and it says thread inlet size is 7/16 inch UNEF, and outlet is 1/8 inch national pipe thread. Okay, it didn't get a lot of good reviews from some people because it says fits most grease guns, and it doesn't fit a lot of the central pneumatic grease guns that they sell at Harbor Freight. And the reason for that is this thread pitch. They don't want you just threading on any like low pressure hose like this one that I bought. That's 1/8 inch national pipe thread. That's, you know, that's dangerous apparently. So they don't want you just threading on any hose to replace your broken hose. They want you to get the right hose. And so these higher pressure hoses have a different fitting on the body side, you know, on the grease gun side itself. So I'm going to get the right one. Okay, friends, here's this Holt Industries 48 inch grease hose. This is 10,000 PSI max pressure, and it does have the 7/16 by 28 thread. So I did count 14 threads on this half-inch section here. That's why I opened the package in the store just to make sure. And so it should fit our BAUER grease gun and our dewalt. So it's a little bit longer than the dewalt's hose, but we're going to go ahead and put this on the BAUER because that's the one that needs it the most. And I'm pretty happy with the length on the dewalt. So let's get this installed. I'll show you how. Now, what a lot of people get hung up on is how to get your wrench inside of here. And how do you turn it? Because that thing's in the way. Do you sit there and turn it? Baby turns forever? And the answer is no. Get our little slot screwdriver, just push that little cap off. Okay, now that's a hex head there, and I think it's an 18 millimeter. We're just going to spin this off, and this is the pressure relief valve, so this definitely has to be on there. Make sure to capture your copper washer, keep that nice and clean. Now we can access this real easily, and this is a 17 millimeter here. Okay, now I'm just going to grab this end here. We'll just get this spun off like this. There's our original hose. And there's our copper washer. We're going to save that. And here's the new hose. Let's just compare it and see how much longer it really is. Okay, so it's a little bit hard to get in the camera right there, but it's definitely at least a foot longer there, so that's going to be nice. Okay, and you know, I used to think, yeah, what about a 72 inch, you know, something even longer would be even better. Well, you have to reach your grease gun with one hand, and you have to be able to clip the other end with the other. So, you know, in reality, my wingspan is only like 5.5 feet. I don't even have a 6 foot wingspan if I hold my hands out, you know, my arms straight out side to side. So, you know, 48 inches is, I think, is going to be a good compromise. It's not going to be so long that when you're greasing shorter stuff that you have all this extra hose coiled around you and you're tripping over it and you're having to take care of extra hose. And it's not so short that you're like holding your grease gun way up in the air while you're greasing something up high, because that's just a pain in the butt. So out with the old, and we're going to save that as a backup because these hoses can fail. Oh, look, it came with a new copper washer too. Sweet. These hoses can fail, and if I have one bust on me, or if I accidentally hit it with the, I don't know, run over it or hit it with a knife or a grinder or something, I don't know, dumb things can happen, right? At least they happen to me, maybe they don't happen to you. But then I'll at least have a backup hose. Double check copper washers in place, that's good. What does this hose say anyway? Warning, grease hose, 10,000 PSI, replace immediately if damaged. You can see on this package where it says 7/16 unified extra fine thread hose inlet, 1/8 NPT hose outlet. So this is 1/8 NPT, of course, that's going on the lock and lube. But this is, if you don't have a Harbor Freight that you can get to, this is the 7/16 by 28 thread pitch. So make sure you pay attention to that, because there's a by 20 thread pitch that would be a little bit too coarse. It will still say 7/16 UNEF, but make sure that it's 28 thread pitch and not 20. Okay, and now who's the smug guy in the garage? Yep, that's going to be sweet. Let's go try it out. Okay, let's go ahead and make sure the grease comes through here. Okay, you're supposed to take the battery out before you do anything, so we'll do that. We'll follow the rules. Emptier than empty can be. Okay, for this new one, we'll go ahead and stick this one in. Slide that in. Pop the cap. Okay, now we'll just screw it right in. So it seats nicely. There's probably an air bubble in it, so let's just see here. I'm going to loosen this and just see if anything comes out. Oh, grease is coming out. So that means there might not have been an air pocket. Let's see if it runs. Now listen to the sound carefully, because if you watch my other video on this BAUER electric grease gun, you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, did you notice there how the motor at first sounded like it was just a constant sound and then it started pulsating? That means it was finally starting to grab the grease. If it's just running constantly and that constant steady sound is there, it's not grabbing any grease. So if you do that for a while and it's not picking up any grease, get the air out. So that's your sign. Once you start hearing it pulsate, that means the grease is on its way. All right, let's go try it out now. All right. Now I try not to overdo it here. I can see a tiny bit of grease moving right there, but these things make so much pressure, you don't want to blow grease out the back of your seal, okay, or blow your seal out. So I don't know if that can happen, but I've had a ton of grease in the back of one of my hubs build up around on the inside of the hub, and I was like, what? And how did that ever happen? Because it never happened to me before, but it's once I started using those electric grease guns. All right, same thing here. We're going to look real close here. Okay, that's it. See that grease move? That's all I'm doing. It's pushing the old grease out, making sure it's filled with new grease. Done. Okay, and if you watch my DIY trash trailer, converted to a dump trailer, and we just enclosed the whole thing with expanded metal. So this will double the capacity or maybe even triple it, and we're just getting it greased up here. There it comes. We're done greasing, and grease nozzle goes in there. That snaps in there, keeps the grease nozzle out of the dirt. So here's what I'm talking about, guys. My wingspan, I know if I stretch my thumbs out, thumb to thumb, it's about 5.5 feet. And that's 5 foot 6 inches, 66 inches. Here's the BAUER with the short hose. Now dewalt. And now the BAUER with the longer hose. That's a big difference. Well, so now we know who the top dog is in the garage, don't we? Well, you know, actually this is still my favorite, and it's because of that label right there. Okay, so this will always be my favorite. But right now, this is holding my grease. This is specialty grease that I use on my ball joints on my Jeep. So everything else is going to get greased with this. This is going to be my beater. It's going to grease the Jeep, of course, the tractor, the trailers, everything else I have to grease is going to get greased by that, because that has my standard everyday use grease in it. So that's going to be the beater, and if I have any problems with it, I'll let you guys know. So be sure to subscribe. Check out my grease playlist, because I have a few videos in there on greasing and ways to grease faster. So check that out, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.